And we'll go ahead and admit looks like we have several folks that have signed on. All righty.
It's only a 30% chance that it'll rain in your area.
Okie doke, everybody. Good afternoon. My name's Leslie Wright, and I'm with the Career Center here at UNC Wilmington. I'm an assistant director. And joining me today behind the scenes is my coworker, Charles Ozuna. He'll be working magic behind the scenes with all the tech support. So I'm grateful for that. So we can focus on our wonderful guest today. And we have two guests so far, one that's going to be probably chiming in a little bit later. Our first guest is Samantha Cleary. She's a director of puppy development and the director of advancement and engagement for Paws for People, which is, a lot of you know, is a UNCW program. And next we have Dr. David DiPiero, and he is actually a veterinarian at Highsmith Animal Hospital, which is where I actually take my dog. So we were very, very happy to be able to have David online, as well as Samantha. And finally, we're going to be waiting on Amelia, who is the director of Skywatch Bird Rescue. And so hopefully she'll be joining us shortly. So everybody looks like everybody's settled in, ready to go. And for our participants, what we're going to be doing later on is we'll be doing probably about a half hour or so of our panel, where we'll be asking some questions of our panelists. And feel free to take notes, feel free to listen along, whatever you'd like to do. And when we're done, we'll be doing some breakout sessions, so you guys can go and talk one-on-one with your favorite panelists for today as attendees. So without further ado, we'll go ahead and get started with our first question, which I'd like to address to Samantha first. And that question is, and David can catch on or can come in after if you'd like. So Samantha, tell us a little bit about your organization and your role. What does a typical day look like for you, Samantha, at Paws for People?
Yeah, so thank you, Leslie. As she said, my name is Samantha Cleary, and I'm the Director of Puppy Development and Director of Advancement and Engagement with Paws for People Foundation. We train and place assistance dogs with individuals with various disabilities at no cost to them. Some of you might recognize us on campus as the dog classes that are offered at UNCW. So we do give undergraduate students the opportunity to train our service dogs, which is a really unique, one-of-a-kind experience that is offered at UNCW. A typical day for me can be very varied. I typically start my day at our Puppy Development Center anytime between 7 a.m. or 8 a.m. to assist in the care of our puppies in the morning, since it seems to be the most hectic time frame when the puppies first wake up. And throughout the day, I'll stay in our Puppy Development Center, which runs off of about 50 to 60 interns and volunteers each semester. So just coordinating all of them so that they are on their shifts on time. They're doing what they need to do to take care of all of our puppies that can be in our center, which can be up to 20 puppies at a time. So most of my day is spent at our center right now. The other part of my position, I also do a lot of our marketing and PR for the organization. So days that I'm not at our Puppy Development Center, I'm usually running around town or hopping on Zoom calls with other businesses in the area to explain to them what we do and help get their support for our programs, and just, really showcase the amazing things that our organization does. I think I answered all the questions.
Awesome, thank you. David, tell us a little about your organization and your typical day.
Yeah, definitely. And by the way, I've heard really good things about Paws for People, so just shout out there. I'm at Highsmith Animal Hospital, which is a general dog and cat veterinary clinic that's been in business for a little bit over 40 years now. We see a lot of different things, everything from your general day-to-day emergencies to routine vaccines, new puppy appointments, kittens that are sick. We do a little bit of everything. We're lucky because we do have the emergency clinic down the street. So if anything gets really serious, we send some things over there. But most of the time we have no idea what a day is going to look like. 1 or 2 days a week I'll be devoted to surgery, and then other days we just kind of see appointments and it's whatever walks in the door. Honestly, today has already been very crazy and unusual in a lot of different ways, which is not unexpected for Mondays. But I can't really say what a typical day is like because it's very different every single day.
That certainly sounds very familiar to me for sure, with days that are going up and down. All righty. So I'll continue with you, David. What's your, this is the next set of questions. So what is the favorite part of your job, or something that's, and maybe something that's not so glamorous about your job that you'd like students to be aware of?
Yeah, my favorite part actually ties into what I just said, is this the variety and the freedom of, a lot of times we'll refer things that are very complicated to a specialist if the owner wants, but a lot of times in real life, we're working on a budget. So we have to kind of think of on our feet, get creative. You have to know how to do a little bit of everything from ophthalmology, dermatology, your own radiology, your own surgery, your own dentistry. It just like goes on and on forever, which is really what I like about it and why I got into the job. But it's also kind of, I think, the thing that is a little less glamorous is, it's a lot of people see it on TV and they think it's something you get into and you clock in and you do cool stuff and then you leave for the day, but it really kind of takes over your life in a lot of ways. It's a big responsibility. You're never going to feel 100% like you know everything. And I think a lot of times what we talk to college students about is like, it's okay to feel like an imposter because everybody does. Even the important part is that you're just like improving and continuing. But I mean, a lot of the job is not glamorous, and a lot of people think about the kind of stuff that comes to mind, like there's a lot of blood, there's a lot of poop, there's a lot of urine, all that kind of stuff. But really, I think the hard part is just, there's also a lot of days where you have to go out there and talk to somebody and say, I don't know what's going on with your pet, or I do know, and we're not going to be able to fix it. And it's a lot of heartache every day, and that's something that we have to learn how to deal with healthfully, but it's kind of a big problem with the profession.
Samantha, what about you? What makes your days great, and what makes your days sometimes kind of difficult?
Yeah, so I would say there's definitely two parts to Paws for People that I mostly enjoy. We work with puppies from birth to 20 weeks old at our puppy development center. My personal favorite age is birth to 6 weeks old because they're kind of like what we call little potatoes with legs. They're super chunky, they're super cute, and they're just so sweet. They're still nursing on their mom, and they're not too yappy at you yet, and have an attitude. I think a lot of our interns and volunteers will say the same thing. So they're definitely part of my favorite process, at least in puppy development, because they're just really cute and you see their personalities start to blossom as you see them grow each and every day. The other part of the organization, that's the main part, is that seeing our dogs, what we call bump or match with their clients. So once our dogs start their training process with their clients and how they're actually going to transform their lives is truly amazing. I've been with the organization for 6 years now. I've trained many dogs, and I have seen the clients from 5 years ago to now, and the huge difference that this dog has made in their life, and just made a really positive impact, not only on them, but their family and their friends. And they have a more independent lifestyle now because of their dog, and maybe they're leaving their house more often. They're able to go out with their family, to the grocery store, go to the movies, or anything like that. So that's really the dig down, get at your heart aspect of Paws for People that I love, because you're seeing full circle what these dogs are doing for people. As Dr. David said, there is definitely things that are not glamorous at all about working in general in the animal care field. I've also worked with dolphins, sea lions, and otters, and seals, harbor seals. So you deal with poop all the time, everywhere you go, no matter what you're doing, from a training aspect and just a care aspect. So definitely the messy parts I'm not a fan of, but you just have to go into the field knowing that that's what you're signing up for. The pee, the poop, the throw up, weird discharges from various places, depending on what types of animals and that you're working with in what capacity. So that's definitely the least glamorous part of the job.
Thank you for sharing that, Samantha. All righty. So the next part of our discussion will be a little bit about what led you to your position. And I think our student audience and our staff audience would also be very interested into knowing about your major and what you studied to get you to the position that you're at right now. So what led you to your role now? Samantha, you can go ahead and start.
Yeah, so from a very young age, thanks to my parents, we used to go to the National Aquarium in Baltimore every summer. And ever since I started going there, I was like, I'm gonna be a dolphin trainer. So I started asking any single type of animal trainer I could find what they did in their life to get where they are. And they told me to major in psychology. With psychology, you learn all of the behavioral traits and how to train behaviors. And they said that's what you should do. So I started looking for programs. I found UNCW, loved the location, was on the track and field team, and it had a great psychology program. So that's what led me here to UNCW and then to major in psychology to lead me where I was. So I was really lucky to have a lot of great professors in the psychology department that had also had students that went in the animal care field. My initial thought was to continue working with marine mammals until I found out about the assistance dog training program at UNCW with Paws for People. So I took those courses and thought it was really interesting, really fun. Never really saw myself working for the organization. I did 3 summers of working with dolphins, sea lions, otters, and harbor seals. Really enjoyed my time with that. It's just a very, very competitive and small field. So unfortunately, where I was post-college, it was really hard to just find a job. And I would probably have to do at least 3 more years of unpaid internships. And I needed to start supporting myself. So on a whim, I reached out to Kyrie, who's the founder and executive director of Paws for People, and said, hey, I might be coming back to Wilmington. I would love to volunteer for you all again. Is there anything I could do from a volunteer capacity? And she emailed me back and said, we actually have a job opening. Would you like a job? So I got very, very lucky and blessed. I volunteered with them for about 2 years before I was offered that opportunity. So when I said I was coming back, they didn't want me to ever leave again. So now I've been with the organization full-time for probably now 4 years full-time working, and just been keep bouncing around different aspects of the organization, from administrative positions to event coordinating to our marketing, and then directly training our older dogs and then back to working with our puppies. So kind of all over the place, but I did always have deep down, I always knew I wanted to work with animals at some type of capacity.
Thank you. I really love that story. I appreciate you sharing. And I love the proactive behavior that, you had to, display, because they didn't come to you and say, hey, Samantha, come volunteer. You went to them. So that's important to be proactive. Very good. David, what led you to your position? We want to know about your major too.
Well, I'm kind of in an interesting position because I was one of those people that was obsessed with animals forever, like since I was a kid, but I didn't want to be a veterinarian until pretty late in life. So it's kind of a weird combination of those two things. Usually you either have veterinarians that are completely new to it and it just kind of came out of nowhere, or they wanted to do it for life. I guess I'm kind of a combination of that. I'm also a Seahawk. I graduated in 2011 with a business degree. I kind of didn't know what I wanted to do in college, so I picked a degree that was kind of going to give me a lot of skills in a lot of different areas. And I was actually really happy with the Cameron School of Business and everything they taught me. It was a lot of thinking on your feet and doing creative projects. And I got out and I was working in an office. I was kind of like sitting at a computer all day. I had a friend that did a lot of work with the Humane Society in my town, and she convinced me to kind of start volunteering with them. So I did. And one of the things they needed somebody to do was take sick animals to the vet. And I had a bigger truck. And so I loaded up all these cats every week and took them to the vet. And she was just an awesome vet and let me like really get hands on with the animals. I think she appreciated having the extra set of hands and the extra help, but she also like could tell I was interested in it. And she just let me do more and more. And it got to the point where I just really fell in love with what we were doing. And I eventually kind of got all my paperwork out and like looked at everything you had to do. And it was kind of daunting. And I think the first time I like kind of gasped and then closed it all down and like went away. And then a couple weeks later, I was like, you know what, I'm going to take another look at it. And then from that point on, it was another it was another 2.5 years before I could get into vet school because I had to go back to school and take some more science classes. And I also had to spend a lot of time working with veterinarians. I think I did about 3,500 hours before I applied. And then 4 years later, I was done with vet school, and now I've been at Highsmith for about a year now. So it's been an exciting journey, but it's definitely also been a lot.
Yeah, it's interesting. You're talking about kind of changing academic disciplines in a way, so from business into the sciences. So that's interesting. Thank you for sharing that. So next question, I'll start with David. What can students to make themselves marketable for your industry? So what makes a student really stand out? What can they do to make themselves ready for that career path?
I think you can divide it into a couple different places. Like one, your application to get into vet school, which is kind of a necessary evil. And then two, like how you're going to be well prepared when you get out, because they're similar but also different. Getting into vet school is kind of a formulaic thing. It's keeping your GPA up, getting lots of experience with lots of different veterinarians, getting experience with non-veterinarian animal organizations like Paws for People or Skywatch. Those are great. You don't want to just be one thing. You want like at least 4 or 5 different animal areas, some of which with veterinarians. You want to learn how to game the GRE because you're going to need to take that test and get a decent score. It's a very studyable exam. I think I put in a lot of time doing it, and my difference between my like first practice test and my actual exam went up like huge. So don't just say, oh, I'm not good at standardized tests, or my practice test was low, I'm not going to do it. Because you can really, if you're willing to work hard, you can get all these things up. When I like started doing this, like I had no business applying for veterinary school, and people told me that. They're like, you're up against a lot of challenges, you're never gonna, these people have been working for this their whole life, you're not going to be able to do it. And I took that seriously because that's real advice and it's solid advice. But I think if you're willing to work and put in a few years of your life, anybody can really do it as long as you kind of meet the basic requirements. As far as being a vet, I think the best advice I'd say is like, make sure you really want to do it before you do it, because it turns into your whole life. Like my fiance is also a veterinarian, so we kind of talk about veterinary stuff at home, and that's okay. But like, you will go home thinking about your patients every night. You will wake up and have to do research before work. You're probably going to be working like a 50-hour week. We're doing better at getting balance in the career. And there's a lot of places you can go. There's hundreds of different types of veterinarians, or at least dozens. So you can kind of make it your own career, but don't just do it because you like animals, because like there's a lot of great volunteer opportunities for people that like animals, and you can have your own pets and everything like that. Do it because you really like the job, and to know if you really like the job, you kind of have to get exposed to it.
Without a doubt. I mean, that experience really counts, doesn't it? That's interesting.
Yeah.
Samantha, what about you?
Yeah, I'm going to echo what Dr. David said about it not only being a job, it really becomes a lifestyle, is what we say in Paws for People, because you're not necessarily always on call 24/7. I mean, for my job, I am. But you're taking care of animals, or like whatever industry you end up going into, whether it's a rescue or a nonprofit organization or being a vet. You're constantly going to be on call to come in for different things. So it's kind of hard to turn that off. As long as you're okay with that, I would say any position in animal care, just knowing that you can't ever just turn that off. You're always thinking about your patients or your dogs, or, what animal, if you go into the marine mammal world, if someone was sick, you're going to be thinking about them all night long, and things like that. So it's definitely a full lifestyle. What was the question again? Sorry.
So it was, what can students do to make themselves marketable for your industry? So
Yeah. So I can just speak on what we look for in Paws for People, because right now the majority of our staff did go through our program. And in just the other internship programs I've done, you really want to, you just put your whole entire self in it. A lot of animal care internships and volunteer positions are unpaid. You have to make yourself be really a full-time kind of volunteer and showcase that you care a lot and that you would be valuable to the team after you're done with your volunteer time or after your internship program. It's nonstop. If anyone asks you to do something, you don't question it, you just do it. You're the first person to raise your hand. Like they're like, hey, who wants to do this with the dolphin today? I was always like, me, I'll be right there. I'm sure Dr. David did the same thing when he was learning, like, hey, do you want to help this procedure today? You want to be the first person to raise your hand and just always be able to take in constructive criticism, listening to what's going on. And, you know, if you have experiences other places and you go somewhere else, I think that that's absolutely wonderful, but you always want to be mindful that everyone does things differently. So you might have learned something somewhere else one way, but your new place that you're volunteering at or interning at or doing, you know, practicums with might do it differently. So just take that into consideration and think that through before you maybe say like, oh, well, I would do it this way, because that will also say a lot. I think it's, you know, as you're learning and still going through it, you're working with people who have been in that industry for so long. And I'm sure at times they're going to want your feedback and your expertise in other things, but sometimes you just got to sit back and listen to what they've been doing for so long and see what you can learn from them. So just always being that first person to raise your hand, that first person that's always going to listen and say, hey, we really need someone to pick up a shift today. I need someone to come in overnight and take care of these puppies, or I need someone overnight to watch this animal because they're on a medication, they need to be on around the clock care. You're the first person that's going to say yes to it, because that means the world to the organization. That means to them that you actually want to be there and this is what you want to do with your life. So we definitely want those go-getters that show really early on that they're willing to do anything to get into that field. And that's who majority of our employees are. Went through our program, volunteered in every single aspect they could think of, did every internship program we offered, and still wanted to come back and work the 24/7 cycle and live the lifestyle. So that's why they're paid with us now.
Yeah, I really appreciate that you all talked about the lifestyle and kind of, you know, the challenges and, you know, the things that go along with that. So I appreciate your sharing with that. We'll say with you, Samantha, does Pause for People, do you all take on volunteers, interns, or part-time employees?
Yeah.
And if so, real quick, if so, how would they go about learning about those opportunities?
Yeah, so we offer volunteer and internship opportunities within our organization. We are working on growing our internship program, so it's not just animal care, but for anyone that's like wants to do accounting and wants to help us with our marketing stuff. But right now, our biggest internship and volunteer opportunity is directly with our puppies. So at our Puppy Development Center, we do offer internships each semester for interested students, for them to get credit hours as well. So we've definitely had students go through our internship program and earn some class credit hours through the certified internship program or as part of their direct to independent study. And then if you don't want to commit to a full-time internship with an hour requirement, then we do also have just volunteer opportunities doing the same exact thing, but just less hours. And then also helping on our puppy outings. We do puppy outings every single day in the Wilmington community that anyone can sign up for. And it's just taking them out to Target or Walmart and walking them around and getting them used to the different places, sites, people, just all those different environments we need to socialize them in to better prepare them to be future assistance dogs. So for anyone that's interested, our application period for our summer internship and fall internship is open now. And I'm definitely going to need some people. And we always have volunteer opportunities available. So I don't know if you guys want to share my contact information with everyone that was on here, or maybe I can just type my email in the chat box. And you guys are more than welcome to reach out to me for volunteer or internship applications, and I can get those sent over to you. So I will type in my email right here now so I don't forget. But that's the best way to get in contact with us. If not, you can just visit our website, pauseforpeople.org. And same thing, if you fill out a volunteer application, they come directly to me so I can get you guys set up in the right spot wherever you want to go.
I think I'm going to sign up for your internship because I want to go to Target with a dog. That would be fabulous. That's what I want to do for sure. And David, what about Highsmith? Do you all take volunteers or part-time or interns?
Yeah, actually, some of our best employees are part-time UNCW students, both now and in the past. And that kind of depends on whether or not we're hiring. Sometimes we let people, before COVID, we were doing shadowing a little bit more. I think now it's kind of limited to only employees being in the building. But we may or may not be looking for some new part-time people right now. Best way to find out about that would be to contact our office manager and just set up an interview if she's in the hiring process. We just got 2 new people, so I'm not sure if we're full right now or not. But it's the same with any veterinary clinic. Just reach out. We love college students. Like, they're the most motivated, they're smart, they're willing to learn. We know they're not going to be there forever, but they always do a real good job. And I think most clinics in the area would be happy to have somebody work part-time and kind of teach them the ropes and make a little bit of money and definitely get experience hours at the same time. It's win-win.
Excellent. Thanks to you both for your answers there. So what is, let's see, here's the question. So what's something you know now about your college experience, your major, your career path that you wish you'd known when you were in school? So something you know now you wish you knew back then.
For me, I definitely focused way more on grades than on learning, which is kind of ironic, but it's something I think a lot of us do. I was always worried more about the assessments than what the actual content is. And I did learn a lot, but at some points I could have learned more if I just kind of slowed down and enjoyed learning for learning's sake. And I think that's something that our education system, with all the hoops you have to jump through, I mean, you get lost in it, especially as you get into graduate school. You're going to have more and more things to do. You kind of just bury your head down in the sand and just keep going. And sometimes you forget to stop and like look around and think, okay, why am I learning this? What do I want to take away from this in the future? Because like the grades are going to matter to some extent, but a lot of the stuff you study for tests, you're going to forget. And a lot of the stuff you learn outside of studying for tests, that's going to be the stuff that's important and stays with you forever. So stay after with your professors, like build some relationships, talk to them, do stuff outside of class. Like, that's going to be the stuff that you actually learn from and take away after college. All the stuff you like memorize and write down on a piece of paper, it's going to be pretty worthless pretty quick.
And Samantha, what about you?
Yeah, I definitely think I will be the first one to admit I was not the best student growing up and even through college. So I definitely try to do as much more experience and hands-on learning stuff and learning that, because that was just the best way for me to learn, was doing more hands-on experience and volunteering my time places. But I do wish that I did volunteer more at various other organizations as opposed to just one, because I think it would have broadened my horizons and broadened my knowledge a little bit more. I only volunteered like at Polish Your People during my college time, but there's so many other organizations in this area with different animals that I should have gone to. And I think it would have helped me just learn overall more about the animal industry and, just broaden my experience and knowledge of birds and of, whatever else there is here in the area at the rescues, like what happens in rescues. I've never volunteered in a rescue. So I definitely wish I did more of that, because I think it would have been, I'm in a great position now, but I think it would have definitely put me in a better position of just knowing a little bit more to assist me now that I'm fully in my career.
There it goes. There it goes. Thanks. That's a great answer. I appreciate that. Okay, we're going to close this panel discussion with one last question. And what would be your biggest piece of advice that you could give our student attendees today about your program? What would be that piece of advice that you think you might want to share with them? And Dave, we'll start with you.
Advice for a program. Can I get a little bit more clarification?
Yes. So the question is, what advice do you have for students that may have general interest in this area?
Okay.
And clearly there's grad school, there's all kinds of things you've got to start putting on your mind now, but what would you do.
Yeah, I want to echo something that Sam said earlier is go out there, do things, and be the first person to raise your hand for stuff. I think that opened up more doors for me than anything else was the fact that like I would show up, I was willing to do what other people didn't want to do. I was willing to like put in extra effort. I remember I spent a summer working with an equine veterinarian, and I basically it was not a paid position, but she was letting me shadow her. And I showed up an hour early every time and cleaned the stalls on her barn without her asking me, just because I knew the stalls needed to be cleaned. Otherwise, like somebody would have to do it. And I would just like go and find things that needed to be done and get them done. Because like in our organizations, we're always understaffed, whether you're at a volunteer organization or a veterinary clinic. We never have enough people. So if you're able to keep your eyes open and look for what you can do to make everybody else's job easier and be a team player, people are just going to open doors for you all over the place. It's the single best thing you can do.
That initiative piece and behaving in that proactive way really does make a difference. Thank you, David. Samantha, what about you? What's your piece of advice?
Yeah, I would definitely suggest, depending on what portion of the animal industry you're interested in, because it's so different between what I do and versus what Dr. David does. He had to go to vet school, he had to pass out. I didn't want to do all that, so I was able to bypass that, still work with animals, but I'm not to the caliber and doing all the surgeries and things like that, which I just had no desire to ever do. I knew I wanted to work with animals, but I had never had a desire to be a vet, so props to you. I could have never done it. But doing your research on what particular field do you want to go into? Do you want to be a vet? Do you want to just be a trainer? Do you want to do more research things with animals? Do you want to do like marine mammal research? Do you want to do canine research? There's so many different aspects to the field because people are so interested in learning more about any type of animal, whether it be mammals, reptiles, fish. There's so many different things that you can go into. My sister is currently doing marine research, so still an animal field, but she's not doing training stuff and she's not a vet. So another aspect of it. So definitely research what you think would be the best fit for you, and then talk to people in that field. We have so many great resources at UNCW in all different sections. So ask some questions. How'd you become an animal trainer? What do you suggest? How'd you become a marine mammal research? How'd you get to go to Alaska and study whales? How'd you become a vet? Where'd you go to vet school? What should I do now? Ask as many questions as possible. I guarantee you there's not one person that's not going to say like no to answering your questions, because we really want more people in this field. We could talk all day about this stuff. So we're more than happy to answer any question you have. And that's what really helped me. I just drove some animal trainers crazy. I know when I was, 8 years old, like, how do you do this? How do you do that? But they were also nice, and they answered all my questions and explained to me like, this is what the best way to do it. And really get your foot in the door, apply for every single internship program, volunteer anywhere you can, just to broaden your horizons and gain more experience, because that'll make the biggest difference on your resume when like you're applying for jobs. They want to see that experience even when it's unpaid, which a lot of our work is before you get to the position of being paid and making it your full-time career.
Yeah, another thing that occurs to me is that you guys collected a whole lot of references too along the way with your volunteering and your working and all that. So, I mean, that's definitely something that's important to have for a job and for graduate school. So yeah, we didn't get a chance to go into the graduate school question, but we're gonna. That's actually a good segue into getting into our breakout rooms. Okay, and so for our student participants, you can go ahead and.
Leslie, you muted.
Thanks, Stacy. I was using the space bar to do that, so I let go of it by accident. Anyway, so we'll have our guests go ahead, our panelists go ahead and jump into their breakout rooms. Okay, you just do that by clicking on the breakout room button and then selecting the one with your name on it and join that one. For our student participants, it's kind of the same deal. You would click on the breakout room button and just pick which particular room that you wanted to go to. So you can see you've got a room for Samantha, Unfortunately, Amelia was not able to make it today, and then you have a room for Dr. David. So you can actually go in and click join. You can jump back and forth from room to room. So if you want to spend some time with Dr. David and then switch over to Samantha, you could do that. Okay. Any questions that anybody has in the room, Charles and I and Stacy too are here to support you in any way that we can. Okay. So with that collective group, I think we can make this a success. All right. All righty. So everybody can go.